All right, so I just finished my 3rd year of medical school, and this is the year where you're in the hospital doing rotations. And I don't think I'll ever be the same person again. So my school divides up rotations into 2 halves of the year. You can have your 6-week rotations or your 5-week rotations. So I did my 3 6-week rotations first, and I started with internal medicine for 6 weeks. Then I had neurology and neurosurgery for 6 weeks. And my 3rd one was general surgery. Then I switched over to the 2nd half of the year where I had psychiatry, OBGYN, family medicine, and pediatrics. And the timeline of the year was from June up until today, April 8th. Today's my final day. I just took my exam. To start, what was I expecting before rotations? I remember a conversation I had with my best friend where I was really just like ranting to him. So shout out to Kevin if you're watching this, but I remember telling him how like I was nervous that I wouldn't like what I saw in the hospital, that I wouldn't fit in with the hospital team, that I wouldn't enjoy what I was doing, that I wasn't gonna be good at it. And so I had a lot of anxiety going into the year. Yes, I was excited about, finding out what kind of doctor I wanted to be, but I was so nervous. And he'd be the first one to tell you that I was a mess. But eventually rotations started, and I learned more than I can even like quantify in my head or much less convey, in a video. So what conclusions did I draw? When I started rotations, I had what I called an immature thinking process. And the best way I can describe it is the need to simplify things that seem too complicated. And I think a lot of us could be struggling with some version of this, where we want to take overly complicated issues and try to whittle them down to the most salient points and the most simple points, just so 1, it's easier for us to deal with, but 2, so it's not as scary and annoying. And I've really experienced this on internal medicine, which is one of the most multidisciplinary fields in medicine. And I remember going from, rounds and just going, man, why did we talk about that for so long, where I felt like it could have been shorter. It wasn't until pediatrics, my final rotation, where I really started to think and realize that, while yes, sometimes things can be drawn out, 95% of the time, it's an appropriate level of investigation, it's an appropriate discussion, and it's an appropriate level of complexity. As I went through rotations, I really learned just how varied and how complex the same presentations of the same diseases can be. But yeah, definitely I felt like my thinking process has matured. And I realized my audience might be a lot of pre-medical students, other medical students, maybe some residents, and I wanted to talk about how draining this job can be. And I don't want to be all doom and gloom. You've seen me talk about things that I think are important, like mental health, maintaining wellness, making sure that the hospital system cares about their residents, all that stuff. Like I've already touched a little bit on it, and I plan to touch on it more, but at least in my experience, I've realized just how draining firsthand this job can be. And it's crazy because, if you're not careful, something like medical school can take up your entire life and you won't even notice it. I remember there was a period of time, which was maybe 3 or 4 months in a row from November until March, where I didn't see anybody. I hung out with friends maybe once or twice, and I just completely forgot about that part of my life because I was just so overwhelmed with trying to do my best in school and trying to be on my A game every day in the hospital. And it wasn't until one of my primary care physicians really sat me down and told me, she's like, Manan, I think you're severely burnt out. And I think that was one of the first times where I really looked at myself and I went, did I just become numb to the fact that I'm so exhausted all the time? And it was a really eye-opening moment. And if there's something that you learn from this video, if you're going to go into rotations, you're going to go into med school, you need to take a step back every once in a while, kind of force yourself to reevaluate what you are, what you're doing, and where you are in your life. You don't necessarily need to make any drastic changes, but just just be aware of how you're doing overall. Check in with yourself every once in a while. It's something I definitely wish I did more. I think it would have kept my energy levels a little bit higher towards the end of the rotation. Let me tell you, by the end of pediatrics, I was so burnt out. I learned firsthand just how taxing this job can be, and I'm only in medical school. When you actually commit to a specialty, I imagine the demand is even higher. It becomes even more important to have these good habits to fall back on. In terms of eating well, going to the gym. It's not easy to develop, and it's certainly not something that I've been good at, but I just wanted to share. The main thing that I would use to define 3rd year is my academic experience. And yes, I've had the opportunity to work with some fantastic physicians, fantastic residents, and if you're watching this at all and I've worked with you, thank you so much, deeply from the bottom of my heart. It's been really fun. But I struggled a lot academically in 3rd year. And I know everyone has their own versions of academic struggling, but considering who I am and where I have been academically, I considered this year a struggle. You can talk forever about what study habits I tried, what worked, what didn't work, and if you want to see a video on that, let me know in the comments section about, how I troubleshooted the problems that I experienced with school. But I wanted to impart to you guys that, when the world's telling you no, when your exam scores are telling you no, you kind of have to be a little crazy and just say, no, I cannot accept what the world's telling me. I cannot accept this feedback. I have to keep trying. I have to keep trying different things until something sticks. You got to make that bet on yourself. And I've said this before, but you have to trust yourself. You have to keep pushing because nobody else is going to push for what you want like you are. Struggle is something that I've really grown familiar with this year. And I think it's made me a better person, to be honest. You know, when I started this video, I said I don't think I'll ever be the same person I was before rotation. Starting to see myself turn into the physician that I hoped I would be. That right there is like a truly mind-blowing conclusion that I'm starting to make, and it's something that I didn't really think, you never really realize until it's upon you, you know, wow, I'm starting to see the differences between who I was as a first-year medical student, who I was in pre-med, and who I am now. I still have a lot of decisions to make and a lot of things coming up that I have to get through before I'm, necessarily there, of course, but when you start to see those changes, it really makes you think, right? It's one of the craziest feelings, and I hope all of you, if you're interested in going into either law school or whatever it is, or becoming a content creator, you start to see those small differences and it really motivates you. It's truly one of the best feelings on the planet. Today, I consider today a win. It's something that I really wasn't sure if I was gonna get through, at least all the way back in March of 2021. And I just wanted to express some gratitude for it all. If you're watching this video and you're aiming to go to medical school or you're about to start rotations, keep this in the back of your mind. Hopefully you can internalize some of the gratitude I'm expressing, just because I don't like to use the words makes it worth it or justifies, but you do have moments where you do feel pretty good. But this is definitely one of those good times, and I just wanted to share it all with you. That's been it. Of course, if you have any other questions about my rotations experience, you can follow me on TikTok, you can follow me on Instagram. I post a lot more, behind the scenes stuff there. Or you can ask me in the comment section below. I'm always in the comments trying my best to respond and engage with you guys, because I love hearing what you have to say. But other than that, comment, subscribe if you love the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.